Hey, podcast listeners and viewers. Thanks for joining me today. Today, I have Emily Couture. She's going to be talking about her newly published book, The Bird and the Whale. It's a children's book, but it's not just for kids. So I hope you sit back, listen, or watch this and enjoy it. And don't forget, please share this podcast or video wherever you're watching or listening it on. Thanks.
So my name is Emily Couture. Yes, I am married to Ryan Couture, who is the son of Brandy Couture. So we've been married about almost 7 years, almost 7 years, and we just took over the gym officially from Ryan's dad last year, and we are running it completely. Well, my husband's running it because I'm at home with the baby right now. So we are busy full time. There's a lot going on, but we're having a lot of fun and taking over something off of Randy's plate because he's too busy out there being a movie star and traveling the world.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Um, so like I said, you've got a plate full. You're super busy, but you had enough time uh, to write a book, your first book,
I
right?
did. This is my first book, not the last. It is the first one. I actually I got the idea in April of 2018. I was on a whale watching trip in California, and I didn't see any whales, which was kind of a bust. We saw a bunch of seals, but I saw a bird land kind of like on the water near the seals. And my mind just started going about, how crazy is this for a bird having all this knowledge of the skies and the air, and it's kind of limitless where they can go. But then there's this entire other world of the ocean, which even as humans, we don't know. We know more about space and than the bottom of the ocean, in some regards. And it was really interesting for me to see this bird, and I thought, there's so much that the bird doesn't know, and there's so much that the whale doesn't know, and they'll never know about each other's worlds, and kind of how that relates to us and in insert whatever polarizing situation, whether it's just the human experience and politics or religion or different philosophies and even just geography, different ways of life, and how I experience things and how you experience things are going to be very different. And kind of The Bird and the Whale came out of that sort of quest of how do we understand this, what the unknown, like how do we understand something that we can't understand, and it's through engaging with the other person, or from this shared experience, you're able to learn from the other side, and kind of see it. And that's where The Birds and Whales came, in a kid's book. It's a real meaty way to describe a children's book, but it's really cute. I mean, I have it here. So it's
I
did you get a chance
I
to read
mean
it?
the writing and the illustration is fantastic. When I thank you for sending me a sample copy to read too.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I found myself reading it in the way that I remember reading Dr. Seuss, just the way, the cadence of how I was reading it. And this book, at
Yeah.
least to me, lends itself really to be read out loud, which I thought and think is so fantastic for kids,
Yeah.
for their kids.
I wanted it to be that way. The rhyming is for, so it resonates with children, and, they'll memorize it, because sometimes, kids are going to be having this read to them that don't necessarily know how to read yet. And that rhyming will allow it to memorize it a little easier. And it also, the rhythm and the words that I chose, it's just as much for the parent or adult reading it as it is for the kid. I wanted this to be a message that kind of resonates on both ends of the spectrum, that for the person who's reading it and to the kid. I think it's a really important message for all of us, no matter what your age is. I even put on the book, this book is for all ages. That was a question I got a lot, is what's the age group, who is this for, what age group? And I'm like, it's for everybody. It's for you, it's for your grandma, it's for your neighbor, it's for your friend, it's for everybody. So the rhyming I thought was just really fun, and that's kind of how my brain works. I've in jobs in the past, at like Christmas parties, like holiday Christmas parties, I'll rewrite the Nightmare or the For the Night Before Christmas,
Hmm.
and I'll rewrite it to fit my job. So I used to, make it kind of personalized for the office and kind of slip in some inside jokes. But it was always really easy. People like, how do you do it? I'm like, I don't know. I couldn't write the next great American novel, but let me tell you, I can rhyme some words up here. But that's my only skill.
Hey, you got the job done because, again, like you were saying, this really is for all ages, and there's stuff in there that that hopefully adults will pick up, not only children but adults. And like I said, there's definite messages in there. Because part of what I really wanted to ask you, and you already answered it, was this book was the story is written to where, um, at least to me, it speaks about diversity and how it doesn't matter how diverse, how different you are. And but there are similarities, because I loved how you talked about the fin and the wings, different but similar, and they're
Yeah.
looking at each other as well. That's different, but they kind of function and do the same things for us.
I think it's so easy to look at someone and think, you look at the opposites first, right? Like you might think, okay, what's our age different, and our gender is different, and our socioeconomic standing, and our hair, and our, all of these things, right? Like that when you first meet somebody, that you kind of, you take in this, what are the opposites, or you take note of. And I wanted to kind of look at in this, and this is April 2018. So there was a lot happening politically, and there was a lot happening, and it's not a political book at all. I don't want to say that, but in a time of real divisiveness in families and friendships and relationships, I wanted to go, okay, let's strip away what I believe, what you believe, the things we've learned. What are the things that unite us, right? So let's focus on something, even boiling it down to something so small that you take a bird and you take a whale. And yes, there's different whales and they eat different things, but what do they have in common, right? They both like to eat a fish, right? Even these tiny little fishes that they eat. On some level, there is something that unites us all. And if we can stop and focus on the similarities between us and the other, if you will, right? The unknown, the people who we think we don't agree with, or we're afraid of not sure of how we're going to relate to them, and how we're going to bridge that gap. Even if it's just down to, we like to share fishes to eat, right? Like I say that in the book. I want people to focus on, hey, we've got a lot going on, and it's a lot of differences, but let's focus on, even at the very smallest level, of sharing a meal together, and go from there and see that there's really a lot more that unites us and keeps us apart.
Yeah, and this book of yours, as we were saying at the beginning, and as you mentioned, that you wanted to be for all ages. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's got a simple and a complex message, both. But at the core of it, it's so simple to read and understand that we are all alike. There's, like you said, there's something similar. There's something that unites us. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. It
Oh,
was
thank you.
really well
I
written.
thought I when I chose the bird and the whale, I even wanted to go as far as, when I was going through the editing process, a friend of mine said, let's look at the voice, right? The gender of the bird and the whale, and even to the point of making the bird female and the whale the male, right? Like usually it's the woman who's like nervous and afraid and is more timid and is more. So I even flipped that on its head, and I wanted to make the bird a little more assertive, and I wanted to make the bird kind of the one that was, everything was pretty thought out. I know it seems like it's a kid's book, but I really wanted to take care and making sure that I challenged some of the norms, and I wanted to make sure that this spoke to kids and adults, and that I addressed a lot of different areas, even if it's something that a kid's not going to pick up on. It's not just going to be this small female bird that's afraid of the whale, right? Like I want the whale to be the one that was a little nervous and wasn't sure, even though it has this big dominating physical presence. So, I mean, I might be the only one that ever picked up on that or put too much thought into it. But, I've really enjoyed, having this as my project. And I started writing it in April 2018, and the words came quickly. And then I really struggled to find an illustrator. And I found somebody in New York, but then they didn't return my calls, and it was a little weird. And I was like, well, I'm not putting your name on the book if you're not going to take my phone call. And then a friend of ours, actually Ryan's, a friend of Ryan's who he grew up with, he's a writer and an editor, and he said, hey, let me put a call out to some people and see who I can find. And one of the first references that I was given was Cathryn John, Flow Studios. She lives up in like BC area in Canada. And she was the first person I reached out to, and we totally hit it off. And I just went page by page and I said, here's my vision, but I have like the artistic capability of a paperweight. Like I can't draw a hangman. Like I can't draw anything. Okay. Like it is embarrassing. And I explained to her kind of my vision, and we, over the process of actually my whole pregnancy I was like, I got a baby coming. We got to finish this book. And she was incredible. And she made it happen. And like a few days before I delivered my son, I was kind of like, are we good? Like, this is going to the printer. I just need you to take the rest of it. And she did an amazing job of bringing kind of my vision to life. And something that's really special to me with this book is that my grandfather was an author and illustrator, and he wrote a series of children's books called Tomas the Tortoise. He did work with Elvis and Disney, and he did some major artwork here in town in Las Vegas. But the fact that I was able to kind of carry on that family legacy and publish my first book, and, you know, in his memory, he died 9 days before our wedding. And so he never got to see this, but he has a couple of unfinished projects that I'm hoping to carry on. So this is the first book of my Couture Publishing, you know, venture, but not the last. I've got some stuff in the works, and I'm really excited now that I kind of figured it out, because I just did this on my own. You know, this is a real learning process, and Cathryn, my illustrator, was instrumental in helping me figure this out. Because I don't know if you know this, but pregnancy doesn't make you any sharper. You don't sleep, that's for sure.
You know, I wanted to ask you, because you said that you started in on this the thought process of this in 2018, and baby gestation periods aren't that long. And you
no.
Your baby is only a couple of months old.
Yeah.
Did being pregnant change the course of how your story was written? Since you did have this long period of, you know, a thought process of how I'm going to write it, but you also said that the words really came to you relatively quickly, right? The core of the book?
Yeah, the core of the book kind of came to me very quickly, and then I shelved it, right? Like I'm like, is this going to be something? You know, how do you just go, hey, honey, I wrote this weird long poem story about a bird and a whale. Like we were just, you know, out day drinking on a boat, looking at fish. Like it wasn't, you know, I didn't really know how to write. So the first person I let read it was Ryan, my husband. And I said, hey, I don't really know what this is, but do you want to read it? And he read it, and he was like, no, there's something here. And I showed it to a few more people, and it wasn't locked, right? Like the commas weren't in the right place, and I had some words that need to be tweaked and some phrases that need to be, you know, changed around. But I started it and then kind of put it away. You know, I had this thing, but I didn't know what it was. And then absolutely, when we found out we were pregnant, I thought, wow, this is something that I want to finish, because I want to be able to read this to my son, but also I want this message to be out there. You know, I want this message to be there for not only my child, but for my nieces and nephews, and for friends' kids and teachers that I know who I let read it, who are like, I would love to share this in my classroom. You know, I would love to have this as part of our curriculum, and I would love to get this message out there, which is so incredibly, you know, so flattering and so wonderful that they felt that it was even worthy of being shared. But I was like, I really got to finish this, because I've heard, you know, once the kid's here, you don't have a lot of extra time. So yeah. That was really the kind of, all right, here's the timer. You know, my baby was born May 5th, and I was like, we have to finish this before then. So I really buckled down, and I had some incredible friends in the editing process that helped out, and the illustrator, and I had my whole, you know, team of people that helped to make this happen. And I'm just so thrilled that it's out and that I can actually read it to my son. You know, I wanted this to be part of, you know, his bedtime routine. You know, I want him to know every word of this story. And more importantly, I want him to grow up knowing that we are going to look for the good in others, and we're going to look for what unites us, and we're going to be a problem solver, and we're going to be kind. And we're going to always look for just, that good out there and how we can be a part of it and how we can grow that.
Sounds like a movie in the making from the book. So is Randy or Ryan going to play the whale?
Oh man, size wise, I'm thinking Randy. That was funny. The whole pregnancy, everyone was like, "Your baby." They used the words like meaty and chunky and beefy, and I'm like, I know. My father-in-law is, And then I finally, toward the end of my pregnancy, Randy and his mom, Grandma Sharon, his mom, she's like, Randy was 10.5 pounds, and Randy told me how much he weighed, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have a toddler. I'm gonna have the biggest baby. So yeah, no, he, my child is definitely. I sent a friend a picture of him today, and he has this big old buff arm, and I was like, hello from Popeye's mom.
Oh,
he's got these cute big guns, and he didn't get them from me. That's definitely all the couture genes. But his ears are good. His ears are not cauliflower ears yet, and I'm protective mama. I'm not letting that happen.
Oh, you say yet, and you're probably right, yet. So
I know. He's only 2 months old. I got a little bit of time before Daddy swoops him up and takes him to the gym.
Yep. So what I'm enjoying hearing you talk about and say is everything, but how you are so inclusive of everybody. Everything from when you say our pregnancy, not my baby, not our, and then my team. So I mean, I commend you for saying that and for being inclusive and sharing the credit, because
you can't do this on your own.
You're right, and there's a lot of people that go out there and try to do things on their own without reaching out. And I also think it's fantastic how you used a team of people or group of people and had them read the book first rather than just scribbling something down and throwing it out there. So part of that I wanted to ask you is, did you have to go through a lot of rewrites, or was it pretty solid right from the beginning?
The basic framework is pretty solid, but I sent it to our friend Chaz and his wife Amanda. So Chaz is in the industry. He's a writer and an editor, and he does this for a living. And I sent it to him, and I had some people read it, and I kind of was like, listen, I'm open to critiques. I'm open to suggestions. I've never done this before. And I think even going back to the message, it's okay to not know how to do something. It's okay to ask somebody else. It's okay to be wrong. And I was pretty humble throughout this process, because I was kind of like, I don't want to mess this up. I would rather go to the people who know what they're doing and do it the right way the first time. And doing that is knowing I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to figure it out. And I went to them and I said, hey, and I got a lot of, hey, maybe not this word, and kids aren't going to, know what this means. And I think this works a little bit better. So we had some minor tweaks along the way. Even some, I tried to make things too wordy, and they're like, it's for kids, simplify. Like, you don't have to add the extra syllable, the extra, trying to keep that cadence down and the rhyming scheme. So I was really open to that, because I leaned on people who knew what they were doing better than I did. My Cathryn, the illustrator, she was incredible in this process, because she has several books that have been published, and she's very successful in the industry. And I was very lucky that she chose to work with me. She latched on. She's like, I love this story. I want to be a part of this. I'm like, great, because I don't know what I'm doing. So let's help each other out. And she was really, really helpful in guiding me along and kind of telling me what to do. And again, at no point did I think I knew better than anybody. I had a vision, and I wanted to be true to the story in that regard. But I was very open to it. Just like, going back to our gym, Extreme Couture, right? There's that team, the pro team. Yes, the fighters go out there and individually they get their glory, but you're nothing without your team and your coaches. That's kind of the same mentality that I took to the book, that yes, these are my words, but I need help getting to this place. Whether my uncle, who is in printing, who helped me with the actual printing of the books, and now I have 1,000 of them here at the house that we're selling, but it was a group effort, and it was really something that I'm very proud of for a lot of reasons. For me to get this out there, it's something so personal, right? Whenever you release something that's your words, your art, something like a poem or your story, something that just existed in your mind that you didn't have to share with everybody, but you did. Now I'm taking a risk, and luckily, we've had over 100 orders for multiple books and stuff over the last week. and I'm pretty happy with how it's going. And I was invited to be part of the Las Vegas Book Festival coming up this October. So
Congratulations.
yeah, I'm very excited. We've got a pretty strong book festival coming up, and they've invited me to present. I'll read the book, and I'll come up with an activity for the kids, and I'll do some readings at some schools here. Some teacher friends of mine have invited me, and then as part of the book festival, I'll go around and read the book at some schools. So we're getting out there. There's a bookstore in Florida that wants to carry the book already, and I'm just figuring out how to do this one step at a time, also while sleeping 2 hours at a time at night with my baby.
Wow.
I'm wearing sweatpants below this. You can't see this. I am not. I'm still in full mom mode. My baby's just upstairs with his dad on the play mat.
I'm guilty of that too. I got my collared shirt here, but I got shorts on and no shoes.
If COVID taught us anything last year, right? This quarantine chic, right? You just have to be presentable from here up. But it's like, am I wearing pants? We don't know. It's fine. Nobody cares.
Yep, exactly. Say, so you've got 1,000 books there. You've already had pre-orders and sales for 100, and bookstores wanting to carry your book.
Yeah.
So, a couple of things. You have Couture Publishing now. So, are folks able to go to the www.couturepublishing.com and purchase books there? And
absolutely,
can they get digital, and can they get hard copies? And I think you have something like there's the first first 100. Well, if it is the first 100, they're all gone. Signed hardback books or something hardback.
So the first run that I've done is, and I have them here. So I have 1,000 of these. These are actually hardcover of the book with a dust jacket, signed by me. And these are the first 1,000 books will be signed, and they're hardcover books with the dust jacket. And these are from couturepublishing.com. So we will be fulfilling those. Those are all coming through my direct sales. I'm in the process of, as those start to, as our stock starts to dwindle, which is a great problem to have. I'm looking at ways to branch out on other, avenues of selling. And unfortunately, I don't know what those all are yet, but I do know that there are physical bookstores that want them, but buying directly from me at the couturepublishing.com is the easiest way to get the book. They'll be sold at the book festival. And I do believe that Barnes & Noble is the authorized seller at the book festival, the Las Vegas Book Festival in October. So they will buy a certain amount of books to sell at the festival, and maybe sales will be so wonderful that Barnes & Noble will want to continue. I don't know how that happens, but fingers crossed. I should invite 500 of my closest friends to come in to request the book at the book festival. Yeah, that's like some insider trading. I'm inflating the stocks or something. No, but yeah, I will be selling all of those directly from my website. So as those start to go away, I can look at ordering more. My uncle is in printing, which has been very helpful because I didn't know that world, and I still don't have to because I can just rely on him. Again, part of the team. But yes, I'm gonna talk to Cathryn about plans for maybe soft cover, and then also a coloring book is kind of something I've thought about as a companion piece to going with it. Is my nieces will color on everything, and if you don't give them a coloring book, they'll go to the walls. So I think just to help my sister out, I should probably make a coloring book for them.
That's a fantastic idea for this book.
I want to come up with some activities for the kids. When I go to the school and we want to do something that keeps the kids entertained and kind of holds their attention and kind of drives home the message. So we are I'm still figuring that out of what the activities are going to be, but there's some stuff in the works. And then I have other books, other stories in mind. Actually, my mom wrote a book that I'm going to be helping her kind of come in, kind of what I did with The Bird and the Whale. Getting that made. And then I have a couple more stories that I have in the works that, we're going to take a little bit of time, but whenever I get a chance to get those, pen to paper, I'm going to get those out under the same Couture Publishing label.
Yeah. You got a 2-month-old. You only sleep, like you said, 4 hours. So you're going to be sleeping an hour and a half when you start writing.
I know. Well, sometimes you're up and you're just sitting there and feeding him, like, all right, well, and then a couple of lines will come to me, and I'm like, all right, I've got him in one arm, feeding him, and I'm typing into my cell phone, very multitasking. It's not a glamorous writing process at all, but it is happening slowly.
Um, do you see yourself writing something more other than children's books? Or are you gonna, first of all, just, you know, gear yourself towards children's books for right now?
I think right now what I have in mind are more of short stories and children's books. One of them is I have a series that idea. I'm not trying to be the next J.K. Rowling. I don't mean like that, but I have like a series idea of some characters. So I think I'm going to focus on that. I've always been a writer. I've always, even if it's just my phone. I mean, if I get struck by lightning tomorrow, somebody's going to go through my notes and go like, "Oh my goodness, what was this? There's a lot of stuff in here." But I'm not sure what would be beyond these next ideas, but I'm not opposed to it. And I think just whatever comes to me. I think I've been very, very lucky with that it comes to me with such ease, and it's something that I'm just going to roll with for now. I've had some pieces that I wrote when I was in college. I wrote an essay that I was actually chosen as part of Bono's One campaign and Habitat for Humanity. I got to go to Africa and build houses in Ethiopia because of a piece that I wrote. So I've been very lucky. I'm still very nervous as far as punctuation is concerned. So the editors are a godsend to me. But yeah, I think I'm definitely interested in pursuing that. But for right now, what's kind of coming out of me, and especially in this stage of my life with having such a young baby and hopefully another one in the future, I think that kids books are my avenue right now, but I'm very open. That's why I didn't make it thebirdandthewhale.com. I did Couture Publishing so I can leave it open, and I have the freedom to kind of add to that as the years go on. And I'm excited to do it.
Wow. So I just want everybody to know out there that's listening and going to be watching this that currently your book is not available then through like Amazon or any other distribution companies, mainly through your website then, correct?
Yeah, but it's pretty cheap shipping, and it all comes directly from us. And I've even outsourced my packing materials from a company that's eco-friendly packing materials, and everything is directly done through us. I'm a small home-based business at this point, so everything is done by myself and my husband, and whatever friends that are going to be paid in pizza and wine over the next couple of weeks as we attempt to ship out all these hundreds of book orders that we have. But yeah, so eventually, yes, but for right now, I'm able to keep up with it just out of the house. The shipping materials should be here. The books just arrived this week, and we're kind of sorting through those right now. And I have to still sign 1,000 books, and then we're going to start shipping by the end of this month. Everybody's going to start getting them. So in the future, yes, I would like to branch out, but for right now, I don't have a real need to. It's not such a big operation that we can't handle it right now. But it's quickly becoming that. I'm like, oh, I have like 100 orders to fill this next week. Like, I'm just trying to like drive them to friends' houses and try to get them that way. But eventually, yes, I'm trying to plug in those avenues right now of on Google and Amazon, and even like where they create it, like it's printed on demand through Ingram Spark and some local bookstores, and again the Barnes and Noble thing in October. Hopefully that pans out. So I'm slowly figuring it out. But again, I'm open to suggestions because I've never done this before.
100,000 books sold by the end of the year. Your friends are in trouble.
I don't want to jinx it, but I have some pretty incredible leads from some certain people that have read the book that want to take it to the next level. Mm-hmm. And I can't speak on it right now, but I am silently hoping that this all pans out. And I'm kind of over the next couple of months, we're going to know if it's gonna work out, and there could be some real distribution changes. And I would be very thrilled to see that happen.
Yeah. So I hope you don't mind me asking. It's what really influences you? You live in such an area and a world of. I'm just going to throw it out there. Well-known people. Aside mm-hmm. from that, you live in Sin City area. Mm-hmm. What are those things out there that really influence how you may write, how you think, because like I said earlier on, that you are so inclusive, and it just is amazing to me, and it's so refreshing to speak to somebody that is that genuinely kind and, like I said, inclusive of everything and everyone.
Oh, that's so nice. One of the things, and when we get to the inclusive part, there's a page on the book where there's this bunch of tiny little people. Did you see that one where he's in the boat and some are having a picnic? I even had a conversation with Cathryn, and I said, listen, I don't want you to draw a bunch of white people just because we're both white. I want this to be diverse. I want this to be representative of every little, and again, the people are so tiny, it's hard to see. But I said, this book is going to be read by kids of all different backgrounds and all different ethnicities, and I want them to see themselves. I want them to be in this book. The bird and the whale, they're animals. They're that's not reflective of humans. I want them to see that behavior in themselves. But even in the small little people, I wanted it to be diverse. So I think that that's something that's very important to me. Las Vegas is a melting pot of all sorts of lifestyles and people and backgrounds. And I'm a third generation Nevadan. I was born and raised in Las Vegas. So I have seen a lot of different people and have been very blessed to work in a lot of different diverse industries. And I have just been very lucky to be exposed to a lot of things that I think a lot of people, if you grow up in the same place and you only know the same people, you maybe don't have that perception. But I wanted that to be reflected in my work, and I wanted to be inclusive. And the story itself, I think, is part of my desire to create, even if it's just within the book, a world in which I see myself wanting to live, wanting to be a part of, and wanting to foster this diversity and this appreciation for others. Just to be a little more kind. I want this to be the world that my son grows up in, and I want him to be a person who is that kind of advocate and who is that kind and who is a role model. I think that we're all here to just leave the world a little bit better than we found it. We're not here for very long in the grand scheme of things. And, having a kid really puts your mortality in check. I mean, you're like, oh my goodness, okay, I've got a job to do, and I'm so lucky to be able to do it. But I think that this is me kind of wanting to create a world that I want to see, even if it just starts in the book. And I don't think I'm not the only person in this, that's looking for this and that's trying to, carry this cause. And if my small contribution is just this book, then so be it. But I think that's where it comes from, is that I've seen, Las Vegas is a very interesting city. There's a lot of things you can do here. There's a lot of things that are legal here. There's a lot of different people and activities you can participate in. But I really wanted to create the kind of world that I want my kid to grow up in, even if it's just in a make-believe book.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. And I just hope the people that are going to watch and listen to this, that they purchase the book and actually read it and share it with their kids, and just really understand what you've really written in there, because there truly is a lot of information in such a short story. There's I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to give everything away in the book.
It's okay.
But it's like I said, you're the fin, and the wings, and I particularly love this one particular part in your book. And I don't know if I'm taking it the right way, but this is the way I took it and read into it, is when the bird basically wanted to meet the whale, and it was up high, but it kind of waved first, and I took that as
waved and smiled to avoid any danger.
That's right. And I take it as caution, so you don't, if you're reading it to your kids or whatever you might be doing, it's like, don't approach strangers, or don't approach something without
permission,
being known, or saying hello or something like that. But I just took it that way and thought that's really cool for the caution and the safety, just how you put that in there with the bird and the whale.
That part to me was kind of asking permission to enter into someone else's space. That one little line, in my mind, that was her kind of not being so intrusive. She was still inquiring as to, wanting to learn more about the whale. But so she waved and she smiled to avoid any danger was kind of her asking permission before you enter into someone else's space. That was kind of where I was going with that. Now, when we dissect it line by line and my intent behind everything, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, this is so preachy." It's really just a very easy read kids book. It's very cute, but like what you were saying, and I'll show this page since I have it. You're talking about this page of the symmetry between the bird and the whale. That was intentional. I mean, obviously the dimensions are off because the bird is not that big. It's obviously going to be a lot closer. But that's showing that even in our physicality, right, how polar opposite a bird and a whale could be, that when you look at it and you think, aren't wings just like fins with, or like a whale of, the blubber and the wings are very similar in feathers. So that was the intention. So I'm glad you picked up on that.
Yeah, it's, as you and I have been kept on saying, it's a children's book, but it's a book for everyone, because there's a message in there for a 2-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 50-year-old. There's really good messages in there.
Thank you. I'm so glad that came across, because for so long, before I was really brave enough to show this to somebody besides Ryan, it just lived in my brain, and I'm so glad that now that it's out there and that you've read it, that translates, and that is something that people are going to pick up on. That makes me so happy, because this is all I wanted. I really, it's a quick, short, to the point story, but every word is intentional, and there's a lot more meaning and depth behind the little couplets of rhyming sentences than maybe one might originally think.
Yeah, and like I alluded to at the very beginning, where when I was reading it, I had this sense of putting in the cadence or reading it like a Dr. Seuss, and I loved Dr. Seuss. And when I started reading your story, your book, I was like, wow, this reads like that. This is really cool. This is excellent. So,
thank you.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah, it's going to be a successful book, and I'm not a child, but I'm going to look. Yeah, well, I'm going to look forward to other books.
I want to get stuck in their heads, and I want them to request this. I'm coming for you, Pout Pout Fish.
Yes, yes.
It's a very popular kids book.
Yeah, it's just, again, for a first-time author, it's such a fantastic book and such a fantastic story. I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit more on and I know you said, well, can't say certain things, but maybe we'll go into, have you actually started with any books, other books, any thoughts? Or
I do. I'm working my next story that I have in mind, and nobody really knows this yet, but it's about body image, and about I have this idea for a sea turtle who maybe has something going on with their shell, some unique attributes to it. And it's kind of about how about body positivity, and about how we can find confidence in ourselves. But
we don't want to give too much away.
Hasn't been written yet, yes, but it's this idea that I have, that's going to be there. So, and again, it's not like I'm trying to get into children's minds. I'm not like some Trojan horse where I'm trying to indoctrinate children. It's all good, moral, things of just being good people, and how to best teach that to our children, of not being afraid of, not being afraid of strangers. You want to make sure you have a healthy appreciation for other space, and what's safe and what's not. But on the human level and the human experience, about how can I help to teach through ways of, colorful children's books and that kind of imagery and the rhyming words and things that relate to kids. How do I teach some of these really important, complex lessons that we have to learn later on in life, or some of us don't learn later on in life? I know people that aren't as accepting still, in their later in life. But how do I teach this? And this is my way of doing it, is through the medium of poetry and rhyming, and those bright colors, and that imagery, that you can kind of get those across. So I've kind of toyed around with that, and then I have another series idea, but that hasn't fully been fleshed out yet, so I'm not going to mention that.
Hey, do me a favor, write a children's sci-fi book.
Oh man, that's what I'm wondering. Like, is my imagination ready for that? Just I have one of the ideas is actually a book that my grandfather, before he passed, he had started writing with my cousin, who's a fire captain. He's a paramedic firefighter, EMT, in California. And he has the story of a little kid who wants to be a firefighter and his Dalmatian sidekick, and they, their adventures. And my grandfather had started writing it and had started illustrating it with my cousin's husband. And he reached out after the Burn the Whale, and he and I want to team up and finish literally what my grandfather started, and I would like to step in and finish the book that my grandpa had started. So we've got a lot of stuff in the works. I'm very excited, and some of it is going to be my own original content, and some of it's going to be, helping, whether it's my mom with her book, which is fantastic as well, and finishing what my grandpa started. I'm very excited. I'm a little busier than I thought I was going to be. This is
you're making yourself even more busier.
Full-time thing. Yeah, I didn't realize. And one of the things that I've been very, very lucky to do is, figure this out on my own. But I've had so many people reach out, like a dozen people have reached out to either me or some family members going, hey, I have this idea, but I don't know what to do. And I don't know how to make this book a reality. And so people have reached out to me asking for help with publishing their own work. Wow. And, getting their own books out there. And listen, I'm not one to hoard this information, and I don't want you to have to. If I can learn something that helps you out with your journey, I want your book to get out there. It's not a competition. There's a lot of kids and a lot of bedtimes, and we got to get this stuff out. So I'm hoping that I can do some sort of like Facebook Live or some sort of event to kind of help people that have never published a book before, to kind of go, hey, this is what I did. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it worked thus far, and help others on, figure out how to get their work published as well. So,
wow, really, really nice of you. So, like you're saying that people are reaching out to you to say, hey, what am I going to do? How do I do this? Can you help? Now that you have your publishing company, is that publishing company, do you foresee it being a publishing company where you would publish other people's works, or are you going to keep it to where you're just going to mainly publish your works or close family member type of things?
I would love to be able to branch out. I think that this is what I plan to do. Everyone's like, are you just going to be a stay-at-home mom? It's like, listen, there's no just about it. That is way tougher work than my husband going to the gym every day. I'll tell you that right now. I'd rather go and do payroll and deal with employees than have to, some days you need just a break. Not that I don't love being home, but it is a full-time thing. But I think that this is going to be what I do. I don't foresee myself going back to working a traditional 9 to 5. Although lunch breaks and being able to go to the bathroom whenever you want does sound very appealing. I think this is what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to stick with the books, and I do think that the next one I'm going to work on is the story that my mom wrote. It's a really sweet story about a mouse. This is the gist of it. It's that thing in the wall. It's about a mouse and a baby, and it's written from both perspectives, and they each are afraid of the other thing in the wall because they make sounds and noises, and they're each afraid. It's a very cute story, and she's been working on that for a while. So I think that's our next project, is I'm gonna help my mom work on her story. And I'd love to be able to branch out, once I get better at this and I kind of establish those relationships with retail partners, and I kind of have made a name for myself. And I think people take me seriously, because that's one thing. This is for real. Like I have the domain and the store and the business license, and we pay quarterly taxes. Like, this is happening. This is Couture Publishing is a real company, is a real business. I think people, when they hear self-publish, it's like, I didn't just print some books on, printmybook.com,
right.
like it's a real thing. And I really these are hardcover books. That was something I really wanted. I wanted it to be, a really high quality product. And I wanted it to be something that was printed on good paper, and that the colors were amazing, and that people could really see that there was some effort that went into this. So I'd like to put my name on other pieces as well, and to help other people kind of get to this stage. So fingers crossed.
They are. How big is that book? It looks like it's a pretty good size. So it'd be nice to put on a table because, like you
Hmm.
said, hardback cover book, and it looks really nice. Is it
Yeah, it's like 8.5 by 11.
okay?
Yeah, so it's a good sized book. I mean, it's decent. I don't have a giant head, so but yeah, it is it is there. So yeah, it's basically like a piece of notebook paper, maybe a little bit bigger because the dust jacket and whatnot. But yeah, it's something that I wanted to come out swinging. I didn't want to just print a soft cover book and kind of phone it in. I really wanted to create something that was going to be durable, and especially I've seen what kids do to books.
Hmm.
I'm sure they're going to get ripped and whatnot, but at least the hardcover is going to protect it for a little longer.
And when it gets ripped and torn, come back and buy another one.
They can buy another book. Yes, I'll even sign it. But yeah, the first 1,000 are going to be signed, so I'm working on that. That's quite a process to get all those opened up and to do it in between nap time and feeding and bath time. But I'm really enjoying it, and it was incredible this last week when actually my sister was in town from Iowa with my nephews, and their names are in the thank you. The dedication is to a bunch of my nieces and nephews and my son. And to be able to open it up and hold my book in my hand for the first time, and then I opened it and I showed my nephews that their names were in the book, and it just blew their minds. He was like, "That is so cool." He's like, "Yes!" Like I said, "You're famous. Like your name's in a book. Like look at you, big shot." It was really fun to be able to share that with them and to experience that last week because there's been years coming, and then all of a sudden one day I just was holding it in my hand, and it's on my counter right now, and so we've started delivering to friends that live near us and that are close, and so we're getting it out there. And I'm looking forward to seeing a second wave of people. We had an incredible turnout for for people wanting to support the book and sales right off the bat. But I'm really excited to see people starting to share it once they've actually read it because it's a pretty small group of people who I've actually let read the book.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in that now. You got a sample PDF that I know you won't share with anybody else. But I'm excited to see what the feedback is from people once they actually get to read it because this is my first book. People don't know me as an author. This is something that this is a new chapter in my life. It's all about new stuff this year. New mom, new author. There's all sorts of stuff going on here.
And we're getting back to normal.
I know. This is all great. I'm vaccinated and ready to go out into the world once it's not 117 degrees because it is very hot in Las Vegas right now. My poor son has not been out of the house at all. He doesn't really know there's an outside world. He sees trees out of the window and he's like, "You're keeping something from me, lady."
Yeah, I'm supposed to be going there soon, and I think I'm going to wait.
Yeah, wait until the end of August.
August? Actually, I might do August. Hey, so can you just once again repeat for everybody listening and watching where they can get this book of yours?
Yes, my book, The Bird and the Whale, is available at couturepublishing.com. The first 1,000 copies that I will sell will be hardcover with dust jackets, and I will be personally signing all of those books. And we are shipping personally from our own in-home small business, so we're looking forward to getting that to everybody in a speedy way. And we're using eco-friendly packing materials, which should be delivered sometime this week. So hopefully those will all start shipping in the next couple of weeks, and we should have everything out by the end of the month. So couturepublishing.com, and you can learn a little bit about myself and about Cathryn, my illustrator. And there's a link where you can sign up for our newsletter, which I'm not spamming people because I don't have anything to really update yet. But as things happen, like the Las Vegas Book Festival that I'll be a part of in October, and as future books and appearances and things come, I'll be letting people know through my website, through the email.
Cool. Yeah, you guys. So couturepublishing.com. So this is first-time author, Emily Couture. So, yeah. And if you're in the Vegas area, that's when October's the Vegas book show.
Las Vegas Book Festival is in October. Yeah, you can go to the website to check. I think it's October 23rd is the actual date. So before then, I'll be going to some schools and doing some readings in classrooms and kind of getting firsthand feedback from the kids, which I'm really excited. We've read it to just family members, kids so far. So I'm really excited to have some in classroom, one-on-one, real-time experience with them and how they take the book, some little focus groups, if you will. But yeah, that'll be in October. and hopefully it'll just keep going from there. But The Bird and the Whale has been a long time coming, and I feel like I've had 2 babies this year.
You pretty much have. So I
Yeah.
congratulate you on the birth of the actual son and the birth
Yes.
of your book, your first book.
Thank
So
you so much. I really appreciate you talking to me about this. This has been such a pleasure to talk about something that has meant so much to me, and I'm really glad that it resonated with you and that you were interested. And thanks to Randy for for recommending it and for getting us in touch. He's a pretty good father-in-law. I think I'll keep him.
yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a good guy. He's all right. He's wonderful. We actually named our son Randy is RDC, or his initials, and my husband is RDC, Ryan, Randy Ryan, and our son's name is Rhett. So he's carrying on the Couture boy, tradition of the family initials. So
Nice. There's going to be a race team too pretty soon with those initials. Wow, what a fascinating person she is, and a real go-getter. I hope you enjoyed watching and listening to this as much as I did. Thanks again to Randy Couture for getting me in contact with Emily Couture. And remember, that's Emily Couture. She is a brand new author of the children's book. And you can always go to www.couturepublishing.com and you can order the book, and you can find out more information about Emily and the illustrator. Thanks again for joining me. My name is Chuck Tuck, and I am your host. So long.